Hey, what's going on, guys? Pronago bringing you another Cause Monarchy cast. We have a couple of cool players to preview, to showcase today. It's going to be a Terran versus Zerg match. We're going to be looking at the TheNightFox, yellow Terran in the top right of Static Gray, a port of Colorless Fate, a new ASL contender map. I don't actually know if it's been locked in for the season yet. I guess I can probably figure that out by the end of this video, actually. But in the bottom left, we have HippityHoppity going for an 8-pool, styling himself after Sicky, a good player to try to practice, it looks like. The Magma Zerg in the bottom left. Don't mind the fact that their colors are a very similar color in the name listing in the top right. It's much different, as you can tell, by the minimap and such, so we shouldn't be in any confusion there. Interestingly enough, TheNightFox going for a Fulcrum start as opposed to a Stockade. So already going to be something different than what we saw from the Shambler versus Thunderslaps recently. That was another TVZ. TVZ was a matchup we didn't get to see too often in Acropolis, number 4. An event that ended just about a week ago, I guess, today. And so it's wild that it's already been that quick. Obviously, I'm recording this a few days before then because I do bulk these a little bit. But just an interesting little observation, that's all. Cool to see, though, that we get to see a new style map, new school map as far as Colorless Fate goes. Of course it is. I actually don't really know if it's going to end up being a mainstay or anything. It seems like a little bit of a whack map, I guess you could say. But it's... we'll explain it as the map goes on. We can finally have some vision of the map, actually, as these Zets are moving across the map. This is a slightly older version, because I did adjust these eggs recently, but that's okay. This game was played back on, like, I think the 24th of July. So, you know, dating it a little bit here, as we're already in the month of August, but welcome one and all anyway. These eggs are indeed going to be pretty hard to slip units through in the broad end of it. And we do have some Vulture Micro here from the TheNightFox. He's not quite hitting his stride fully, but good targeting there on the wounded one. And now he's going to double back. He will be able to snipe a couple of these Zets. HippityHoppity, I think, initially sent these across not for damage, but for scouting, and he's kind of been reduced to just having to deal with the fact that the Vultures are chasing him down. One of the few units that can actually give chase to the inimitable Zethrakor, the Zergling equivalent here. I like the idea of trying to set up over here to block this, but obviously Vultures are just going to be pretty potent here, so you're not really going to be blocking much, you know what I mean? So those Zets will be taken out. We have a single pair of quads to defend. Another pair is there, but they're probably going to need to, let's just say, hide back at the ramp. You know what I mean? So this is the big dynamic behind the map, right? We have the eggs that are forming a tight pathway out, but there's unbuildable terrain all over them. You can't wall it off once you destroy them. A mineral field exists to help wall assists up here, and you can deplete it later on in the game if you want to. So it'll open up your choke point. I added some power generators to the map. I don't think there was anything in the middle there when I first ported it, just so that there's some scalability to how wide open the middle of the map can get. And yeah, it's just going to be a cool little move there. Some lobotomy mines have been laid. It looks like the Droleth will get sabotaged a little bit, but there's no money for the expansion just yet anyway. And speaking of money, we actually have a little bit here for Fox. Looks like he wants to maybe put down some more Fulcrums for a Blackjack Flood, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Ministry get put down as well. Matadors get deployed here. They're going to eat into some of the gas bank. And, yeah, it is going to be that expansion over here. So, overall, I think stylistically, I quite like aspects of the map in terms of its layout. We'll see how it goes. We got to see it, DeWalt versus Krankendow, our show match on the final day of Acropolis 4. It was a pretty interesting game, back and forth. We got kind of into the mid-game there. I like these foreground bases, you know, these high ground pushed forward bases that are a little bit lower on the utility. They don't have a huge yield to them, but they're good for, like, I already need to take this particular angle because, you know, otherwise you have to go through the 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock pathways in order to get here. And, you know, I can take that angle and kind of cut off a lot of the midway pushes. So there's map control value in it, which I think is pretty legit. A couple extra Kagrins coming up. These will undoubtedly be Larvosks. You can make extra larva from them. So, yeah, we're kind of getting everything, right? I'm explaining the new map, but also, if you've never seen Cause Monarchy before, yeah, surprise, you know, we got some cool stuff here. Also, it looks like, judging by my quick web search while I was, you know, in the early stages of the game where there wasn't as much action, I quickly did web search it, and it looks like, yeah, we are looking at a map that has officially been accepted into ASL 22, Season 22, which is the season that is ongoing as we speak. It's the one that... obviously Flash pulled out of because of his wrist, so If you're watching and following all of that competitive StarCraft 1 goodness, then now you know. And if not, it's just a cool map that you can look at. It doesn't really matter. Just ignore most of what I said. You probably already did. Now, Stockade is being put down. This is clearly going to be a Vestry add-on here so that the TheNightFox can add some much-needed healing to his army, because the Cleric, the medic replacement, and the or medic equivalent, I guess. The Shaman, which is another unit separate from that, both of them can heal both biological and mechanical units. We don't make a distinction there. You can also repair biological units with the Mason. It probably sounds like it's really OP or something, but honestly, it's just kind of cool. And that's really how I would summarize Cosmonarchy in general. A lot of people think it's OP, but actually it's just cool. The Hydra then is a quarter of the way complete for HippityHoppity. Going to be going for some more Zerg action, I believe, and this is just my, this is totally ignorant, like I don't actually have a reason for it. I'm pretty sure HippityHoppity is an American player, just that's my time zone read. Technically that means he could be Canadian, but time zone plus sort of like looking at it the way that he types, I feel like he's an American. TheNightFox I know is, and so this could be a nice little USA battle here. HippityHoppity, a recent convert and definitely a Zerg main. He's going to try to bomb out of the minefield that's been laid in front of his base. A couple more mines where that came from. The Vulture's now swarming around, seeing what they can do to defend their precious minefield. But a mech army has been assembled in the bottom right, sort of moving out away from the eggs over there. And he's going to station these blackjacks over here to kind of plug the hole, make it so that no pool units can realistically get out. Vultures do clear out a couple of those guys, and that does mean HippityHoppity is going to be kind of cowed back into his main base. Looks like bottom right expansion going to be taken here for the TheNightFox. I like his development overall in this game. We have double Agroleth for HippityHoppity. He's going to be playing some SimCity. He's worried about drops. And, you know, under normal circumstances, I would say that's totally valid. But I do feel like he's allowing himself to be turtled on a little bit here, you know, contained. And I don't always know if that's a good move, but he is going for the ski back. I did see 18 Hydras just pop, so he's still building an army, and it is going to be somewhat, you know, deadly here. The TheNightFox doesn't actually have a developed economic lead. He's got 6 workers over his opponent, but his expansion is only now going to be put down here in the bottom right to get a little bit of an economic edge. And he has abandoned his post above the ramp up here, so he will now be under duress from the Hydras, which can much more handily fight the Vultures head on than what you would typically see out of the pool army. So you can't really micro your way out of this problem anymore. A couple of these mines are going to connect just for some stuns. I like the little bits and bobs of focus fire that he's got. I like that he's even still using them to pick individual Hydras and stuff. Unfortunately, though, as they start to become a little bit more coalesced around themselves, you aren't going to see these Vultures find nearly as much value. He's going to retreat back to, looks like his area over here, and the units making ready to accept those Vultures through the egg hole. I get the egg hatch. I don't even know what you want to call that one. That's a escape door or whatever. And I like that his army is down here to protecting his third base as well, but this is where you're going to get into trouble, right? You've left the Zerg kind of well enough alone and done your own macro stuff. Now they've built up an army of Bactyls just smack in the middle of the map now. The Bactylisk is a nice artillery unit that has bounce attacks. However, that being said, Matadors and Goliaths are pretty resistant to this. Clerics can also add armor to any unit that they're healing. So this could be a very well-armored Terran army that realistically shouldn't be too bopped by what HippityHoppity is doing. However, it really is going to come down to some degree, in a game like this where both players have kind of AFK farmed for a little bit, you know what I mean? They've just been building up their macro, they've been building up their forces. If you're not taking a more positional, tactical angle to the game, this could end up resulting in a more, you know, one big fight, resolves the entire army. Is this going to be a scaling factor, a critical mass? Now, Vorvs do add a little bit more positionality to the gameplay here. They're going to rend armor and reduce attack speed, so they are going to be pretty useful units, but the Matadors are just going to clean them up. And the Bactylisks have only now started to join in the fight well after the front line has kind of met its match. Clerics trying to patch up those Blackjacks. We have the Matadors just doing crazy work here, and the Bactyls mostly not in the fight. Even at this stage in the game, a big flux from HippityHop, it feels like. Definitely could have been more active in that fight with his Bactyls, and now it looks like most of them are going to end up getting cleared out. There was no attempted flank here from the TheNightFox. Instead, he just kind of came back down to reinforce the position. Maybe he was worried that it would get broken by that Zerg army. TheNightFox is, I feel like a Zerg player at heart a lot of the time, but he does play all the races, I think. Maybe not as much as Scozy, but I know he's played all the others. And so, I think he's also played some Scozy, I just don't know how much. Either way, though, he is going to be driving up, reinforcing through the egg hatch, and trying to trickle in a few units here and there. Going to go for a surround on these Bactylisks, and definitely going to be getting his money's worth. The Shaman healing up his Goliaths as they take a little bit of spread damage there. So what do you have in response to this? HippityHoppity going to secure another base in the top left. He's gotten himself into a reasonable economic state for this amount of bases that he's got active. He's got a lot of larvae and a bunch of money, but I feel like he's thinking to himself, I don't even know what to make right now. He's going to go for a bunch of Bactyls and a bunch of IZs behind it. And realistically, if he can go for the Tethfith Swamp here, and he can get some Tetzoricors, there's a chance he can do something about this situation and salvage it. But the tier 2 now on the way for the Terran, and this top left base just now finishes in time for the Agrolets to be killed. There's not enough units here, I think, to defend this directly. He is going to have to fall back to static defense. And he realistically doesn't have a great set of static defense anyway, right? We do have the Blackjack screaming downward. He's going to go ahead and emergency morph some Vorvs, hoping that they will spawn in time. But the Terran has a nice economic edge, making a ministry at that forward base here that we were talking about earlier. Some units are going to trickle in through this position, but I really don't think you're going to get too much value out of moving them there. However, it's not a huge loss for the TheNightFox. He's already denied that third base. And we talked earlier about the Zerg player kind of building up a big mass of units, right? But he doesn't have a lot of armor rend. He didn't go for a Shroud. He doesn't have the Zoruse. And he needs to rely then on Vorvs to do it, but Vorvs will go down to the Matadors if you're not supporting them in any capacity. So the Tetzoricors might be able to help out in that respect once they get morphed, but right now, the Iziricors are struggling. They have not actually been able to turn into those more Apex tier units. 14 more Izis on the way, but that spends down the bank. Now you've only got enough to make a small number of those Teths. That's the 3 over here that you see being made right now. And as much as HippityHoppity is trying to make the 3, now he's up against 5 Phalanxes. And a couple more units rolling on in as well. This is not looking promising for our Zerg player. How can he possibly break out? He didn't go for any run-bys, didn't send any quick units out the egg hatch on his side to see if he can do something on the other side of the map and distract this mech blob. So he's down to his Tetzoricors, which are slowly sauntering in. The first one's already been eliminated, and that is a humongous area of splash damage in that back line there that you saw from those Phalanxes. This is looking like a brutal mech push that I don't think the TheNightFox is going to be driven back from. It looks like with this last Tetzoricor falling, 6 more Izis in production, but that's it. He's got a bunch of Zets that maybe, in best case scenario, can kind of splash down the Terran mech army with the Phalanxes. But the workers are being pushed in now, and yeah, we're going to have to call GG based on that. A pretty straightforward affair. I actually thought HippityHoppity had a deadly army in the mid-game, but the way that he took that engagement with most of the Bactyls not actually fighting, and the TheNightFox also itemizing a little bit more for armor. He also had tier 2 starting to come up. I saw captaincies in the production tab, so tier 2 bio was going to kick in pretty soon. That is a pretty one-sided affair at the end of the day. But we got to see a new map, and we got to see a matchup we don't get to see too often. Like I mentioned in Acropolis 4, we barely saw any TVZ. I think we only saw it in the group stages there, and then didn't get to see it in any of the actual throne room stage, the playoffs. So happy to see that matchup again, and we'll be on the lookout for some cooler, epicer ones that are more back and forth, but at least we got to post a TheNightFox dub, right? GG. We'll be back tomorrow with more Cosmonarchy.